We're live. And this is our weekly chat, 11:30 on Thursdays, 11:30ish, with Brian Joyce, our radio friend, partner, WGOW, and tell us where else you're working in Atlanta
and
now.
106.7 in Atlanta. So if you are traveling through Atlanta, you can catch me there too.
Cool. And today we're going to talk about something really important, and that is the subject of women. And that's why a great woman, strong, professional, working mother.
It's a great ego boost.
Yeah, you deserve it.
Lesley. Thank you.
Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody watching?
Sure. My name is Holly Ashley. I'm the executive director of the Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute, local nonprofit focused on leadership development skills for women in Chattanooga.
So let's get into the issues with women, specifically in Chattanooga, and how the Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute is helping and the initiatives, and there's been so much growth, and then we'll get into the bigger picture of women as a whole in the workplace.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been around for about 20 years, and originally we were founded by 7 women who looked around the community and saw that there weren't a lot of women in leadership roles, specifically in political office. So they wanted to encourage women to run for office, and they kicked off this small initiative to reach out and train women and get women engaged. They made a little bit of headway with that, and then they started to look at leadership development more broadly. So we're talking about business, community, and political leadership roles. So here we are today, and we now have 650 members, and we do everything from training them to be mentors to support other women, because that's really critical to get women into more leadership roles, to networking events and training opportunities like that, to try to get more women in the C-suite, running for office, and leading for-profit boards of directors.
Okay, that's why we need our coffee to really get into the status right now, how it's going here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about real quick what you brought us today. Our guest always brings us their favorite drink. So you like some caffeine because you need it, right?
Right. Well, I have some work left to do for the day, so I didn't bring my favorite drink, so I brought caffeine to get me through the day. It's a cold brew, and it's from Mean Mug, a local coffee shop. And
we're sharing.
It's really, we're friends. We can do that. It's really good. But, the city of Chattanooga has never had a female mayor. We've never had a female governor in Tennessee, and that's just political leadership. If you look at women in the CEO position of Fortune 500 companies, it's less than 6% representation, and we're half the population. The reasons are varied, and it goes to many different layers, but culturally women are still seen as the caretakers of families, of really everything, and so they typically either for personal reasons don't see themselves in leadership roles, and that's something I think women need to work on.
Definitely.
Or they're not seen by other people, men, as leaders. So it's like an onion. You just peel it, and you can go deeper and deeper into the issues. But we are trying to help women realize their potential, and then once they realize their potential, see what skills they're lacking, train them on those skills, and then connect them to a network of other women to help them get into these leadership roles.
What do you think about that coming from a man's perspective, hearing less than 6%?
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the numbers. I mean, I think like you say, it's kind of like one of these problems that's multi-layered. It's like ingrained in culture, and unfortunately, we were kind of talking about this a little bit before we went on air, but some of that I also think comes from other women. I think there's a lot of women who just either are not accustomed to women in leadership positions, even they get a little bit intimidated by it, or they think it's odd, so I think there's a lot of just cultural factors that keep that equality from happening.
One of the programs that we started about 8 years ago is called Women Mentoring Women. And so we recruit women who are in middle management or executive management to take this 8-course training workshop on mentorship that teaches them to be a better mentor, so that when they go back to the office, they can help mentor women who report to them, or mentor other women out in the community to help them just build a support group really for them.
Our editor here, Allison Gerber, is a woman, and she's a very strong woman and a boss, and in a workplace sometimes you see too the different reaction from a woman being a boss versus a man, and
it can be difficult.
Yeah, because you're seeing the perception is different. if a woman is
Well,
strong.
people still get weird when they walk onto a plane and see a female pilot, just because like it's typically
What
just a
is
guy
that?
who's.
What
I think
is
it's just
that?
tradition. You know, people just aren't
It is.
accustomed to it. I think even, like I say, even women walk onto a plane and they're like, "Whoa."
I'm
there's
like,
a
that's
woman
awesome.
flying the plane.
I'm like, that's awesome. I
people-
want to meet her.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
you're well informed and
Right.
you're educated about it. But it's why women who are called bossy instead of assertive, you know? Or another B word, right? if you're assertive and you're leading a team,
And a
then-
man is called a boss, acting the same way, if not more aggressive.
Right.
Not everyone responds that way, but it's definitely still prevalent based on the numbers we're talking about here.
And based on the culture, like that workplace culture or whatever the organization is. And I don't want this to come off as male bashing because it's absolutely not.
Are you okay?
I'm a man. I'm
Are
fine.
you right?
I'm
You're
fine
good.
so far.
You're good.
I think you're on team women though. I do. I think you're
I'm on team everybody.
Are you a feminist?
Team
I'm
everybody.
a, I'm
is
a
a good
lover,
team.
not a fighter. So
There
yeah.
you go. There you go.
There we go.
And it is really difficult for women to support all women when there are women who aren't supportive of all women.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite quotes is there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women.
There's a special place in
Absolutely.
hell for women who don't help other women.
Other women.
Who said that? Gloria
Exactly.
Steinem?
No, I want to say it was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I mean,
Political?
our organization is very supportive of each other, and we work with a lot of fantastic men leaders in the community who want this training brought to their female employees. We partner with a lot of big companies in town who have developed these employee resource groups specifically for women. Blue Cross is one of them. Their culture has changed a lot over the last couple of decades. EPB does it.
There are a lot of women in high executive positions at Blue Cross.
There really
Carla
are.
Rayner. Do you know her? She's a great, strong woman, high up in marketing there, vice president. So, hey, Carla, she's been super supportive of a lot of other women in the community. She needs to be in CWLI probably.
Exactly.
And speaking of the types of initiatives, you guys talked about some of the program. You have a big event every year called Impact.
Yes.
And this year, did you hear about this?
I did not.
Randy Zuckerberg was the guest speaker. Do you know? Do you recognize that name?
No,
maybe?
I think I'm getting him
Zuckerberg?
confused between Randy Gerber and Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, this,
So is he a model or is he the guy who founded
It's a
Facebook?
woman.
She
Oh,
is
okay.
an entrepreneur
Ah, all
and
right, there
actually
we go.
used to work at Facebook and worked for
she
and
helped
with
create
her brother
Facebook
Mark.
Live.
Okay.
Yes.
all right.
Yeah. And
She's
she owns-
related to Mark?
Yes.
Or- okay.
Sister.
I didn't know.
Sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she came and she was a great, bright light, like one of those genuinely successful and wealthy people, but was genuinely nice. So that was
That's always
was
nice.
great to see. And she went around and visited a bunch of the
startups,
startups
here in town.
here.
Yeah.
There were pictures of her all over social media, like the Tomorrow Building and several other lamppost related things. So then they have this event that brought in a lot. How many people?
About 800 people.
800 people. So that's a big deal for Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those people are local women Chattanoogans. And there were men who came too.
Yeah,
Right.
there are men that come every year. I mean, the event is to bring people together and inspire them about women in leadership. And we make a lot of friends in the process and raise a little money to help further our cause.
And talking about numbers, a big number I think is the growth percentage. And
Yes.
why don't you tell people about that? Because that shows some hope here in
Yeah,
Chattanooga.
I mean, there are really great things going on in the community. There really are. Our membership has grown 150% in the last 2 years. So we went from 255 members in 2015, and now we're going over 650. And most of our members join through word of mouth, so it's a friend or a colleague, and because they know the programming is really great and the network is great. Because it really is about, in addition to what you know, it's about who you know as well. And we have some
Definitely.
amazing women. We have judges and engineers and teachers and stay-at-home moms who are, when they get together, they're just saying, how can I help you? Like, I know the struggle is real. How can I help you?
Struggle
Here's
is
my
real.
number. We'll have coffee, and we'll make something happen. So that's what we offer our memberships. It's an amazing network.
It's the connection, and they really are. And I know, speaking from personal experience with gaining jobs, they really are helping place women with people they have connections with, hiring managers. It's not just talking and having these programs that sound really good. Like, they really are putting them in place with hiring managers and people have, including me, gotten work from it. So it's awesome to see an organization that's not just painting a pretty picture. We have these initiatives and we're empowering. They're really,
we know
they're
there's
really
a lot
doing
of work
it.
that needs to be done, and all of our programming is delivered by volunteers. We don't pay anyone to deliver any of our programs, but we have these amazing women leaders who have the talent and
they
skills,
wanna
and
help.
they donate their time to deliver these. So we really appreciate them.
I do too. And speaking from like a woman in this business, the media business, I'm sure you understand this too. If somebody's helped you, you should try to help them.
You should.
Yeah. So I remember all my mentors. I spoke with one of them yesterday, Chris Weil. Hey, he started a company called Momentum. It's an international marketing PR firm, and those people have helped me and stayed with me along the way. So when there's an intern, like you have Taylor today from CWLI. Hey Taylor, are you enjoying yourself? She's on her phone. But you need to return that. And I hate when people don't. Like,
Well,
you know, I really try.
the media industry is a bad industry
I
to
know.
judge that way, because media is a lot like
It's
show
hard to
business, where
find those people.
yeah,
It
because
is.
when people, they achieve the position they want, then they just, burn everybody behind them. But oh well, that's the industry we work in.
I know it's cutthroat, and a lot of businesses are. You mentioned that we have a lot of work to do still. What are you talking about specifically here in Chattanooga, and then everywhere, really?
Specifically in promoting women from middle management to upper management. Because when you talk about the glass ceiling, that's where that glass ceiling is. So you look at a lot of companies and they have something called a female capital gap. And it's the gap between the number of women that are represented across the company and the gap of the number of women that are represented in upper management levels. And usually that female capital gap is between middle management and upper management. So very specifically, I would really love to see more companies developing training programs that help those women get into executive leadership roles. And so it requires, I mean, you've heard this phrase, you have to see it to be it, right? It requires getting a few women into the upper leadership roles, having them mentor women in middle management, even entry-level roles, and then making sure that like the interview processes to get into those roles are like that they're open, and that it's not just the same old process you've had in place for 50 to 60 years that favored a male-dominated work environment. But breaking that glass ceiling, because it still does exist.
And women also need to be informed and educated about where they stand in the interview process. For me, this has happened. I've heard other people, this has happened too. Sometimes in an interview setting, you need to know what's legal and what's not. I've had men managers in the past here and not here ask me, well, who would take care of your kids if you were a manager of other people?
Right, they can't ask that. But a lot of women don't know what can't be asked.
I'm like, who takes care of your kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that also just speaks to like bigger inequities just across societies in general. Just the United
Can you
States.
believe that, though, that it still goes on?
The sad reality is the United States just in most ways does not do nearly enough to help families and women compared to a lot of other countries. But this is, when you start talking about daycare and you start talking about assisting families with, then we get into the whole political debate about socialism and communism and how much the government
Right.
should be involved in your family.
Right.
So it's like, but then they just come right back to you and put it on you. Well, if I'm going to give you a position of leadership, who's going to take care of your kids? Well,
Well, and
if we were in Sweden, we wouldn't have to worry about this.
and it's unfair too that the men don't get the same questions, but I know stay-at-home dads,
Me too.
right?
Yeah,
I know
right.
lots of men who would love to have paid time off to take care of their kids when their kids are born, and that's an inequity for men. So until men are seen as caretakers as well, women can't get out of that primary.
One of my pet peeves, I've hit on this a few times on my show. It comes up every Halloween. For example, when a young girl dresses up as a princess, and she gets criticized sometimes by feminists because you can be something more empowering than that. The flip side to that is if she wants to be something empowering, then say, well, who's going to take care of your kids? Why don't you go back to being a princess?
Yeah, double standard on both sides.
And my take on that is always, why don't we just let people do whatever they want?
Yes.
If you're a guy who wants to stay home and bake chocolate chip cookies,
Go for it.
bake
Do it.
the
Do
best damn cookies that have ever been made, awesome. And like if you're a woman who wants to do that, great. who is anybody else to decide who can make those decisions?
And
to your point, like, if you're up for a management positions, who's going to take care of your kids? It's none of your business. I'll figure it out. Again, it would be nice if we had some systems in place that help me, but since I'm on my own, just leave it to me. I'll do what I need to do.
Yeah, it's always very disappointing, but not surprising, and that's why, we have to move forward.
But I think it is true that women, by and large, face that double standard a lot more than guys do. You never hear that. Like, getting back to the Halloween analogy, you're not gonna. A young boy can dress up as whatever he wants, and they're not going to be questioned on like their motives as to like what they want to be 30 years.
Unless they're dressing in a feminine manner.
It may be that.
People have never questioned my attire. Never. If it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
That's what I'm saying. Just let people be what they want to be.
Yeah, and us TV personalities, I know you're more radio. We don't have clothing allowances, you guys, unless you're working in like a top 5 market. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people, it's not as glam as it seems. I've driven live trucks while my photographer is editing a story. It's not reading a prompter. It's tough.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think unless you walk in someone's business or their shoes, you don't know.
I feel look at like the fine line. I feel like that women in politics need to walk. I mean, for God's sake, the complete double standard, not just that Hillary Clinton, any female candidate has to go through is absolutely ridiculous. If they assert the same kind of confidence that a man does, they get the B word, the other B word that we can't say.
Well, and this is one of the reasons why women don't run for office.
But then at the same time, like to, kind of soften them up and make them more,
maternal,
middle American friendly. Like, Parade Magazine will run some piece on like which of the first ladies bakes the best cookies. And then like everybody flips it, well, because these women are more capable than that. Well, yeah, they are more capable than that, but as soon as they start asserting that confidence, we just call them the B word and try to
look at
so it's
Michelle
like
Obama.
Right.
She's doing
what do you want them to do?
All of this stuff for kids' education, really did a lot. And that's proven if you look at that. And people are just talking about her wearing sleeveless dresses.
Well, of course they did.
Yeah. Or her bangs.
When she introduced healthy lunches to school, she was criticized for that. Look at her, she has fat arms. First of all, she doesn't. Michelle Obama was a fox.
She's got guns.
Let's just be totally honest. Like, if we're just going to judge women by their looks, Michelle Obama was hot. Okay, deal with that.
She is.
But Arnold Schwarzenegger did the same thing. Under the Bush, like Arnold was W's like health fitness guru guy, and he would come. It's not like Arnold. I mean, in his later years, it's not like Arnold was in the shape that he was when he was 20. Guess what? Nobody is. But nobody was judging him on.
No.
Hey, why should I listen to Arnold? He's got a little flab on his abs, which he does. But yeah, because he's a man.
And then they're meeting with like these major foreign ambassadors coming to the White House for these huge, important events, and they're like, she has bangs now. She has bangs.
Well,
right. Not what her policy issues are, what her credentials are.
And the people who are
they want to see the right policy, but just wear it with the right bangs.
Or
just that.
Do you think a lot of people who comment on the bangs or the sleeveless guns she has know anything about policy?
Probably not.
Right.
I don't think that matters.
Right.
But at least you're having this conversation. And more people are having the conversation of saying that it's not acceptable for women politicians to be viewed in that light. And as long as people continue to have the conversation and speak out and say that it's not right, let's talk about the real issues, then maybe the needle will move. It'll take some time, but...
And on the other side, it's both parties and everyone. President Trump's wife, Melania, social media every day coming at her for previous pictures she's taken to literally every top she wears. That can't be easy. I don't know Michelle Obama or Melania Trump, but I know it's not easy. So it'll be interesting to see. She's been pretty quiet as the First Lady. What kind of initiatives or programs she gets involved with? Do you know? No, not really.
I don't think anybody does, because I think it's kind of crystal clear at this point that Melania Trump, I don't think wants to be First Lady.
Isn't going to be involved.
I don't think she wants to be.
Yeah.
I don't think she wants to be with him, but... Hey,
that's
another third rail of conversation.
Here we go. We'll go into that. Let's talk about politics a little bit now, too. There's something major going on in Montana. There was a reporter who was questioning a congressman whose the majority of votes are already in. I think the election is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So anyways, a reporter was questioning him on, I think, health policies, and the congressman apparently didn't like it, so he slammed him.
Body slammed
him.
Yeah. Which is another line has been crossed in American culture. Like, it's just like we've already, seems like not only have we crossed a lot of lines, but literally urinated on them. So why don't we just do this too? So this guy just questioning this. And by the way, there's been a lot of like false narratives out there about like what happened here too. That this was private property and the man barged in on. No, that is not the case. Fox News, no less, has already debunked those claims. Fox News was standing right next to this reporter.
Okay.
So yeah, he had his microphone in his face, which guess what?
Reporters
if you're a politician, get used to it. You're going to be seeing a lot of microphones being shoved in your face every day. If you can't deal with that, don't run for office.
Right.
Go back to doing what you were doing because this is not for you. And you just picked the guy up and body slammed him, which, again, we're at that point in American culture where depending on which side of the aisle you're on, it's totally cool. So because this guy's a Republican, the reporter is, obviously if you're a reporter, you're some liberal snowflake. So good, it's good that this guy got body slammed to the ground. So
you were mentioning some deplorables, as you termed it. And
if you think it's cool to body slam a reporter, you're a deplorable. Actually, I could think of worse names.
I use the quotes because that was your words. That's why I do that.
I'm watching this. I'm thinking of a guy like, so if this is now cool, think of a guy like, Jesse Waters from Fox News, Bill O'Reilly's little.
Yeah.
He made his whole career out of ambush interviews. So if we're cool with this now, then I say cool. All right, next time Jesse Waters tries to ambush, Nancy Pelosi, how about she just takes out a tire iron and beats the guy over the head until he's dead? How's that sound? Does that sound great? Is this the new America?
I think we can all agree that that's not normal behavior.
Yeah, can we all agree, regardless of the R or the D in front of your name, physically assaulting people is not cool? By the way, the sheriff who charged the candidate with assault in Montana donated to his campaign. So to anybody who say there's a bunch of trumped up charges, let me repeat, the sheriff who is charging the candidate is a Republican who donated to the Republican candidate. Wrote up a police report and said, I don't care how much money I donated to you. That's assault, brother.
Well, that's good to hear.
So if we're just beating people up now, I can't wait till Jesse Waters does his next ambush interview because he's going to get killed. And that's where this is going, unfortunately. This is going to lead to a lot more violence. And the more people just laugh about it and shrug them off as snowflakes, well, when Jesse Waters gets that tire iron across the head, I don't know who's going to complain. It's not a good situation, people.
No, it's not a good situation.
It's not a good situation.
And another horrible, horrible situation out of Manchester at the Ariana Grande concert. 22 people killed, and there are some issues with Britain and our country now because of information that the British feel was leaked, pictures, confidential pictures of bombs and victims. So Britain says, hey, U.S. intelligence, we're not telling you anything else about this incident.
Which is bad.
Yeah.
When, we rely on this kind of sharing of intelligence to fight terror, it's not a good situation when the Brits are telling us we're just not going to share things with you anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Bad situation. It's just the last bad situation to come out of that bad situation. There's just
It's been a very, very grim week for violence, for sure. And we're gonna maybe take a sip of coffee and talk about some weird news.
Try to recover from that.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. It's a jolt of lightning.
This is pretty good, by the way. What was this again?
It's a cold press from Mean Mug.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. You're saying a little simple syrup in there?
Just a little bit of sweetener there to take the edge off, but
there we go.
Who needs coffee neophytes? What the heck is a cold press?
Lots of coffee in here.
I don't drink enough coffee.
It's cold brewed as opposed to a hot brew that you then ice. So it's supposed to be more. It's coffee and it's good and it's cold. So that's all you need. Really.
Don't get too complicated.
You can have a sip later.
It's cold coffee.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Let's get into the weird things going on in the world. Let's talk about this couple who was driving with a man on their car, unbeknownst to them.
Yeah.
Okay. What in the world?
That is a bender to end all benders.
True.
So this, it's I think it's Memphis. Is that right, Alice? I think it's a story out of Memphis, West Tennessee, somewhere there. These people, I think they drove 11 miles. They got into their car, drove 11 miles, were pulled over by a sheriff's deputy who pointed out that there's a man sleeping on their trunk. They were driving 65 miles an hour for 11 miles. This guy was so hammered, he slept on the trunk through the entire thing without falling off.
Wow, that's amazing. It is a bender, $10
That
bender.
is like,
I mean,
that's an epic bender.
Does anyone here have a story that good?
No.
Not even close.
I drove around my wallet on my car once, but I mean, that's about it.
Even that, like, yeah.
I've known people who've driven away with the gas pump still in the car.
Right.
Yeah.
My mom
Yeah.
did that once when I was a little kid, like
Cell
tore
phone on
the
the roof.
entire...
Cell phone
Yeah.
on the
Yeah,
roof.
cell phone. I've done the
that.
wallet on
I've
the
done
roof.
that. Amazing how long a cell phone can stay on a car roof.
Yeah.
It's
Long time.
But
crazy.
the guy, I was reading the story, apparently it's one of those trunks that has like a little bit of a kind of curve upward where the trunk ends, and so they figure maybe that slight little curve is just enough to have kept the man on the trunk.
Wow.
For 11 miles at 65 miles an hour.
It's impressive.
That is
Definitely,
impressive.
Definitely. Good job, man. He escaped.
They should turn
escaped
that
death.
into a sport. You know how they do like
Yeah.
everything's a sport now? Like
Extreme
tossing
sport.
people and whatever.
Body slamming.
Just do that, like the...
Sleeping on top
Well,
of
like,
cars.
which is the, is it Norway where they do the wife carrying, or is that
Oh.
Russia? Where do they do that? That's like a real sport.
This sounds like we were just talking about all these great positive women initiatives.
No, but that's a real, you've
wife
never seen this?
carrying?
It's on, I think it's either
No.
Norway or Sweden or Russia. They
So
wife
what?
carry, they just
They
take...
wife carry.
Yeah, it's like a big dude who takes his wife, throws her over his shoulders, and they do
Throws
like a
her over.
race.
Okay.
That's a real, you know,
Wow.
it's an event. I think they should do that with the drunk people on the trunk.
Oh, it's come to North America
Right.
now.
Oh.
Is it coming to North America?
October 7th,
Wife
yeah.
carrying.
Where?
These are-
October
here it is.
7th.
Here we go.
They
The
have
North
it.
American Wife Carrying Championship. There it is.
Virginia.
Wow.
Yeah, it's coming to Virginia.
And Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine.
Progressive city of
Here,
Portland.
the history of wife carrying is a...
It's a legend.
Qualifying events are held in Australia, Sweden, and Estonia. God bless the Estonians, right? They always have the best ideas.
Well, I guess if it's not taken too seriously, hey,
I think that
I
should
would
be...
watch it.
I think that should be a new NASCAR
Throw somebody
event.
over
Just
your
throw a
shoulder.
drunk guy on
Just
the...
around.
We all know who can win, like the Indy 500, but who can do it with a drunk guy on the trunk? That's some real skill.
The real athlete is the drunk guy on the trunk, though.
right.
He's the real athlete.
Ah,
For
boy.
sure.
Yeah, there we go.
Wasn't there something else weird we were talking about going on?
Yes,
in the world?
the...
Not like there's not enough.
Yeah, I feel like that's been the whole show.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy with the bomb on 153.
What?
That's the one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Said he was what was
He was
Ellis?
ju-
He
he
was
was-
pulled over on
Self-defense bomb.
153.
He said he was
with
justified.
an improvised explosive device in his backpack, and he claims it's self-defense. He's trying to protect himself from MS-13, which is a Salvadoran gang that does not exist in Chattanooga. MS-13, like there's MS-13 in other places, but there's really not much of a presence in Chattanooga. Certainly not up on 153, I don't think.
I don't think
Last
so.
time I checked,
Yeah.
I know there's a Dairy Queen up there. There's a Target. I don't think there's any Salvadoran criminal syndicates, but
Speaking of criminal violent activity we've been talking about for a while now, I know you had the sheriff or the police chief, excuse me, on your show.
Chief, yeah.
Yeah, Chief
Chief
Brett
Fletcher.
Fletcher.
Yeah,
so
right.
he's out, as a lot of you guys
He
know.
will be leaving.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do we know anything at this point about candidates for replacement? A lot of people
No.
have been saying they would like to see a woman. I think
Right.
you were one of them.
I had a
you were
caller
late.
to my show, who
Okay.
a man, an older man, who was just insistent that we have to have a female police chief. I don't know right now if they're even interviewing
And
any
what
females.
was the older man's reasoning who called in?
His reasoning was that he just like he said I've had a wife for like 50 years and she's great at everything. And he's like, and she's better at a lot of things than I am.
That's why they're still married.
That's
So-
some shaky rationale, but
Well, yeah, and he also said, my wife is so great, like, I'm no good with money. She's good with money. So she'll be able to handle the budget. I said to him, if we're adhering to stereotypes, I think most guys would call in and say, the wife is really bad with the credit card. He said, no. In my case, I've been married to my woman for like 60 years. And I don't even know how to balance a checkbook, but she's great at it.
Statistically, women are more risk averse when it comes to financial management.
Right.
So, like, women entrepreneurs are more successful in those regards than
Well,
men,
historically, they also
statistically.
handle the household finances.
Right.
I mean, I know this from media because, 9 times out of 10 when advertising people approach, who do you want to tailor your message towards? Women, because they're the ones controlling.
make the decisions.
Make the
Exactly.
decisions, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that was his reasoning.
Interesting.
I talked to the chief. He didn't want to get into names,
Right.
but they're considering a small handful of people. I don't know if any of them are female.
women.
Yeah.
What do you think too about the stereotype of women in police or war? There are stereotypes placed on women. I've certainly heard, they're not tough enough. They're not strong enough. They don't have the physical ability.
I was just at Ironman on Sunday, and man, those women athletes,
Yeah.
they were beasts.
Rock stars.
So, I mean, if you're asking my opinion, I think the best person for the job is the best person for the job, regardless of gender. I mean, if
Yeah.
you can lift the weight, if you can get through the training, if you can carry the equipment, do it.
Do
I
it.
mean,
It
let them do it.
it all depends on situation. Well, of course it's true. I mean, if you're talking about hand-to-hand combat, the average woman is going to be a lot weaker than the average man. Guess what? So am I. I mean, if you put me in a wrestling ring with a
Right.
WWE wrestler, I'm going to get crunched because I'm just not as big as strong as him.
Right.
But if you're talking about, if you need somebody who's going to, we have a bunch of equipment that needs to be run 26.2 miles. Yep. No, a woman can do that probably even faster than a guy can.
It
I mean,
depends-
who knows?
it depends on the person.
Depends on the person, and it depends on the scenario.
And then people have come into the emotional aspects too. You were speaking about women in politics, especially, Hillary Clinton was this close to becoming the first female president. People criticized, would she be able to emotionally handle that? Or would a woman be able to emotionally handle being the police chief of a city that has a major violent problem? Could they handle that? What do you think about when
huge
people say that?
stereotype.
I know.
Women are, painted as emotional or hysterical. For decades and decades, women have been called crazy and hysterical. It's a stereotype.
What do you think about that? I mean,
I have two different. I'd actually be curious to see your thought on this because I see your point of view. I can also give the alternative opinion here.
Okay.
I know a lot of women who just do not. They have the same criticism of women that a lot of men do. That women are too emotional. That they're too, whatever the gossipy, that they bring too much emotions into things, that they can't get along with each other. I can't tell you how many women I've had in my life who say, I don't even like being on friendly terms with other women because they're always talking trash behind each other's backs. And
It
you
is
agree with that?
so disheartening that women.
I know men that do the same.
this.
That
Yeah.
do the same.
I do
Right.
too.
Yeah.
I do too, but I do think it's more prevalent with women. I'm just
I
going to give you a
would have to
controversial hot
disagree.
take there.
I think it
No,
depends
I
on
appreciate
the people. Again, I mean,
Yeah.
speaking from the media business, yes, I do see that. But in other businesses, like the newspaper, for example, we were talking about our immediate boss, the editor here, is a woman who would never stand for that.
Right.
So it depends on the organization. As far as
When you're talking about position, first of all, when you're talking about positions
But
of
just-
leadership, there are certain leadership skills that are required to be a leader. Whether you're a man or a woman, if you have those
Of
skills,
course, and you couldn't
you're
stand
in.
for that, or you wouldn't
Right.
be in your
I do
position.
think, like, speaking to your point, outside of the business worlds, women being friends with other women, I do think like speaks to like a lot. For example, my women friends are very strong, secure, some working mothers, some not working mothers, but for the close friends in my life, they share a common
Would you
strong,
not- I think-
confident, secure.
Would you also
Right.
agree, though?
Yeah.
Women, by and large, much more emotional than men are. Which is also a good thing, by the way.
I would
Because a lot
add
of guys are
this.
just emotionally dead.
So I think
It's just true.
So I think it's cultural. I think in our culture, men are discouraged from listening to
Right.
their emotions and listening to kind of like that inner voice.
Yeah.
So
They like
maybe
push it away.
leveraging emotions to make decisions and to interface with other people is not something that most men do because of
Right.
cultural norms. So
Right.
whereas that's more acceptable for women.
Right.
So there are situations I think.
But I don't think
depending
it's
on
just
what
that
the
it's
culture
culturally
is.
acceptable. I think women are just genetically more inclined to be more emotional and understanding of each other, whereas men are more genetically inclined, I think, to be emotionally brain dead.
Well, I do see.
I'm being honest. I mean, I say that as a man.
There is a difference. There is a difference. I would agree with that.
You know, the classic scenario being like, you know, the woman always pulls the guy, "What are you thinking right now?" And the guy's response is always,
Tell me what
"Nothing."
you're thinking.
Yeah, tell me what you're thinking.
Please
Nothing.
talk to me.
No, you must be thinking something. I can tell. I
Please
say this
tell
on my
me.
show all the time. I can tell you right now
Yeah.
when a guy says that, he's honestly thinking nothing. Because he's just emotionally dead.
That is good to know.
I was texting with a this is a great story. So,
I have had men in my life though who are very emotional. They're usually musicians or artists though.
can I? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sure you both have like long lost friends, like a
Yeah.
friend you grew up with who lives like 800 miles away and you barely see each other.
It's the only reason I have my
Right.
personal Facebook page at this point.
Okay,
Yes.
now when you like talk to them,
Yeah.
let's say it's like once a month or something, you reconnect. What do you talk about?
Their lives.
Right. What do you ask them about?
Yeah.
What's going on with you?
Like, do they have kids?
What's
How's
new?
what's new?
Yeah,
How are your kids doing?
And
How's your career going?
People I find reach out
Right.
to me, which I'm totally fine with when there's something wrong, like
Okay.
a long.
They reach out to you with like problems.
Yeah,
or,
like
you know,
they're going
they
through
want
a
to discuss
divorce,
something. Okay.
something's happening,
Okay.
and I've noticed that throughout my life, and I'm fine with that. Even if I haven't talked to them in years, at one point in our lives we were best friends.
Okay, but my point is, women when they reconnect like that, you have like important things to
I have
talk
a lot of
yeah, you want
friends
to
who
talk
are
with your
men,
friends
too,
and
though.
reconnect that way.
I do have a lot of
Right.
friends who are men.
I have a friend like that in my life, a guy. All right, we were best friends going back to when we were like 12 years old.
Okay.
I see him once every 2 years, right? We were texting with each other the other day for the first time in like 4 months. Do you know what we were texting about?
Football.
No. He drove by this old Chinese restaurant that's called the Poo Poo Hot Pot.
Oh,
Which, when we were 12 years old, we thought that was the funniest thing.
right.
We literally texted poop jokes back and
Men-
forth to each
men
other
love
for a
background
solid
humor.
45 minutes. I never once asked him how his wife is doing. I don't even know if she's
We're
pregnant.
like, what's going
we
on
literally,
with you?
We literally just texted poop jokes to each
I
other
don't
for
think that
45
means you're emotionally dead. I think that means you
But it-
communicate in different ways, right? So like you
but
bond.
it means we're not as emotionally in tune with ourselves as women are. Do you know the comedian Rob Riggle?
No,
he
I
used
don't.
to used to do a great bit about this too, where like he, same deal. He's like on the phone with his friend. He hasn't talked to him in like 8 months. Gets off the phone. His wife's like, "So, what'd you talk about?" He's like, whatever. She's like, "Well, how's his wife doing?" He's like, "I don't know."
I don't know.
He's like, "Well, how's his kids doing?" He's like, "I don't know."
That is.
I have these same conversations.
And she
with my
says, "Well,
husband.
didn't you ask?"
That
And he
is
goes,
true.
"No." He goes, "What did you talk about?" And he goes, "We literally, for 45 minutes, we literally talked about all the various ways we can go F ourselves." Like just,
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's amazing that we coexist in relationships and marriages, but, you got to find your people. I think that's what it
There you
boils
go.
down to.
There you
Yeah.
go.
And we're going to wrap this up, but this was a really cool, important, insightful talk about women. And we really appreciate both of your insights into this serious topic.
Yeah.
Do you have any words for women and men and everyone out there before we leave this cool convo?
Yeah, just be good to each other. Don't stereotype. Don't generalize. Men aren't emotionally dead. I have to say that. Just like women aren't emotionally overactive. So just be good to each other.
Don't body slam reporters either.
No.
Not good. Not good.
Thank
Don't
you.
pass out on a trunk.
Thank you. I will try not to be body slammed or pass out on a moving
Life
vehicle.
lessons.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that. All right, we'll be back next Thursday. And I think Jed Mescon is coming in to talk to us
I haven't
about
seen him in ages.
Erlanger's groundbreaking of
Yeah.
Children's Hospital. It's a huge deal. They've raised so much money and have a lot of plans. It's
I don't know how
very
many people have
big
really
deal.
seen or heard from Jed since he left TV. And
I have, but we go way back.
We have to
Yeah.
seek
At
him out.
events. I see him
Yeah.
at all the events.
I haven't seen him in way too long, so I look forward to that.
He's an emotional man.
He
Is he?
He is an emotional man.
Bring it up. Bring it up.
Yes. Yeah, he definitely is. I love you, buddy. All right, bye, guys. Have a good Thursday. It's not Music Wednesday. It's Thursday.